The Trago Mills Company is well known in Cornwall for its supermarkets, not its aircraft, but Trago Mills boss Mike Robertson financed Sidney Holloway's design for a fully aerobatic basic trainer, and the result was the SAH-1. Everyone who's flown the prototype, including evaluation pilots at British Aerospace, have praised its handling qualities. The Lotus Cars boss, Alan Curtis, and the helicopter magnate Alan Bristow have formed a new company to raise money to produce it in quantity. They hope to do it through the UK Business Expansion Scheme and set up shop in an enterprise development area. In a few years, British light aircraft manufacturing could be flourishing as it did in the 30s.
And from the lightweights to the heavy metal, the Swing Wing Tornado ADV. As distinct from the strike version, ADV was developed explicitly for the defense of UK and NATO airspace from the Channel to the Arctic Circle, although Saudi Arabia ordered 24 a year ago and the Sultan of Oman 8 last month. Flight Lieutenant Paul Brown and Ken Thompson reefing hard to demonstrate as near as possible to the crowd. Although watching this, you may not believe it, the Tornado ADV is designed to loiter as well. Without in-flight refueling, it's done a combat air patrol of 4 hours, 13 minutes, including a 10-minute dogfight, and that's a long time. The success of Tornado was critical for the Royal Air Force and for British Aerospace. But its chairman, Sir Austin Pearce, also has to tend to the civil side of his business.
How important is the success of the 146 to the civil side of your company?
Well, it's a very important part. After all, this is an aircraft which we launched ourselves, which we're paying for ourselves. We have a number of partners in it. And it's an important part of the middle of our civil aircraft activities, and a lot of people employed in building it.
The acquisition by the Queen's Flight can't have done the aeroplane any harm.
No, and I was very delighted to see that Prince Philip arrived in it yesterday, and of course, even as just a greater thrill was to see it being used at the royal wedding, 1,500 miles all the way out to Portugal.
Which was a very striking demonstration of its capability.
Oh, yes.
When you see that beautiful formation of your combine, the two 146s and the Jetstream and the 125 flying across Farnborough, what goes through your mind?
Well, the important thing to me is that's a demonstration of the enthusiasm of the people in British Aerospace for their activities. They're their products. They love it. And I'm very, very proud when I see that.
And what about the ATP?
Well, we flew that for the first time at the beginning of August, exactly on the date which was forecast, 2 years in advance, and that's a terrific achievement. It handled in terrible weather conditions extremely well, and I'm very optimistic about its future.
Finally, in your opinion, in these days, is politics and diplomacy the dominant factor in world aviation?
Those are two important ones, but also a very important one is money, in order to build what we want to do.
Thank you very much, sir.
And here's that pride of British Aerospace. 4 different passenger aircraft in formation, all from the same company, each a commercial success. 2 versions of the 146, Jetstream and the 125. Here's Jetstream, 19-passenger turboprop, 130 sold in 7 countries, including the USA, 26 more on option, and the project now in profit. The 125, arguably the world's first business jet, paid for itself years ago, 630 sold in 37 countries. And the 146, 78 orders in 5 years since its first flight, of which 54 have been delivered, and the expectation is to break even in 3 years' time. The 146 comes in 2 versions. aircrafts, the Series 100 up to 93-seater, and the slightly larger 200 with up to 111 seats, powered by 4 American Avro Lycomings, both the world's quietest jet airliners. And now, new to the show, the 146 freighter, because of its quietness, able to operate at night when others may fear to fly because of annoying the neighbors. And most of the world's air freight is moved at night.
Short-range airliners have to be cheap to run and quiet. British Aerospace's new ATP will have a break-even load factor of about 33%, and 6-blade all-composite propellers mean it makes a fifth of the noise of a twin-engine jet. Raymond Baxter flew on it this week.
At the controls, Chief Test Pilot Robbie Robinson. Robbie, you had a pretty rough ride on your maiden flight with a hefty crosswind and a lot of buffet, a bit like today, in fact.
Yes, I think on the maiden flight, the crosswind was really not the problem. That was fine. The airplane coped with that very well. It was very turbulent. That was the worst aspect of it.
And the airplane coped with that very well.
Well, it's not very often you get a good clearance of your crosswind limits on the first day, or a good chunk of the crosswind limit anyway.
And how have things been going since?
Really extremely well. We have about 42 hours flight now, and we are well into the program. We've done some work while we've actually been at Farnborough also. The aircraft has remained amazingly serviceable. All the advanced avionics have remained serviceable and have really lived up to their promise. Very good.
The ATP is a giant step forward against its predecessor, the 748.
Yes, it is. It's a really great leap forward. The advanced part of the name really is a true word to use, because the systems that are in this aircraft, even more than the airframe, are right at the forefront of present-day technology.
Thank you very much, Robbie, and good luck with the ATP.
Farnborough is very much a European event this year. From Italy comes the Air Macchi MB339. The two versions flying are the two-seat advanced trainer and the single-seat ground attack Veltro 2. Veltro, I gather, is Italian for Greyhound. The Rolls-Royce Viper engine with 4,450 pounds of static thrust is built under license by Fiat. The aircraft looks a bit like a cross between a jet Provost and a Hawk. The handling qualities, demonstrated by Air Macchi test pilots Durioni and Ciappinello, speak for themselves.
Up to the bird control.
This is one of the very few aircraft displays in the show to use smoke.
Also from Italy, the A129 Mangusta or Mongoose, aptly named for a light anti-tank helicopter. And this Mongoose has a fearsome bite as well as terrifying agility. A few years ago, the Western Lynx became the first helicopter to roll at Farnborough. Watch closely and you'll see a gnat's whisker away from a helicopter loop. Two Rolls-Royce Gem engines. The gunner navigator sits in front of and below the pilot, and I'd rather him than me. Full day-and-night combat capability with electronic night vision wired to the crew's helmets. 66 ordered for the Italian Army.
Proof that technology can break through culture and language barriers is the European Airbus. An early prototype A300 has been demonstrating the next great technical leap forward.
Fly-by-wire means that the pilot's demands on the aeroplane are passed from his control column by electronic impulses via servos to the control surfaces themselves and indeed the engines, and these signals are processed by onboard computer. The next step will be fly-by-light with fiber optics, but that's the future. Right now, engineering test pilot Gordon Corr is deliberately trying to put this big airliner into attitudes and speeds from which it would simply fall out of the sky. But the system's sensors are telling the computer what's going on, and the computer, not the pilot, is actively and immediately taking the appropriate action. And we're about to see pitch angles up to 28 degrees, 17 degrees angle of attack, and speeds falling rapidly towards 90 knots. But the computer sets up a stabilized maximum climb. Thrust on, 24 degrees pitch, 18 degrees angle of attack, 94 knots instead. The pilot simply pulls his little side control all the way, and the computer sets up instantly the maximum response of which the aircraft is safely capable. A brilliant display of fly-by-wire by both the pilot and the system.
One welcome surprise during the week was a visit to Farnborough by a super guppy. This one was en route from Toulouse to Chester to pick up some wings for the Airbus. The delightful guppy fish look-alike was originally adapted from the Tratter cruiser for NASA to carry components for Saturn rockets.
Worldwide, the commuter airline business continues to expand and is highly competitive. In it, the British Aerospace Jetstream is now well established with a promising future.
The Swedish contender in the commuter and corporate market is the 30 to 40 seat Saab SF340. 64 have been sold since it was certified in 1984. It has the latest cathode ray tube instruments, and pilots who've flown it say it handles smoothly and safely. The interior is fitted out by Met Air Limited at the old Battle of Britain Aerodrome at Westmoreling in Kent.